Well, the story plays out like a movie. A husband accused of poisoning his wife, an internet search on the home computer on ways to poison someone, and then the wife, yep, ends up dead. But this is no movie. The trial is going on now in a courtroom in Wisconsin. True TV's Jean Cazares joins us live now with the details on the case. Now, Jean, this is very interesting. We gathered that investigators took the home computer from the Jensen household on the day Julie died. How valuable has this been to the prosecution?
You know, Namor, it's just amazing how in today's day and age, forensic searches can actually look at a hard drive and figure out what is there, even if the person in the home has had it deleted. And so investigators got this computer on December 3rd, right after Julie passed away. And what they found, number one, that there were a lot of internet searches, over 2,000 searches for poison since July of 1998. Secondly, they found those searches were done very late at night or very early in the morning when Mark Jensen was the one that was home, according to the prosecution. And third, they found that sites like botulism were looked at, and poison and anarchy, and how to have undetectable types of poisons. Now, we haven't heard yet, though, the cross-examination on all of this.
Now, I gather that the time of day of these searches is significant, but can they truly ascertain that the searches were done by Mark Jensen just because they took place at a certain time of day?
No, they can't. But what makes this case fascinating, this is a circumstantial case, and the prosecution has brought out through other testimony that Julie Jensen didn't know how to work a computer, that she was computer illiterate, you could say. Now, the defense is going to counter that by saying she was learning how to use a computer. And they're going to try to say, you're exactly right, that Julie Jensen is the one that did these computer searches. But here's what's interesting. We've learned today that interspersed with these computer searches on poison and botulism were some internet searches within the internet of Mark Jensen's work. So email from like a Microsoft Outlook account from the work, that it would be tough to see if Julie could access that.
It's fascinating. All right, now what about these emails between Mark and someone called Kelly? There was one extended email exchange that the prosecutor actually had the jury listen to. Tell us about that one.
Boy, Namor, that was a long one. That went a long time, and that was October 16th of 1998. And it began by Mark Jensen emailing to Kelly, who was his mistress at the time, what about just going on a cruise and getting away from all of this together? So they have a cute little exchange back and forth, but then she said, you know, I'm going to have a deadline, and maybe I'll have to back out. I'm not sure if I can do it, because remember, she was married during that time herself. And he said, okay, even though if you have a deadline, you know, I guess I could go with somebody else, but we've got to make some big decisions. And he's saying that I've made some decisions, some answers are left unanswered at this point. So it was an exchange the prosecutor thought important enough to give to the jury.
Now that kind of, you know, I've made some decisions might imply certain things, but there's no specific talk of I'm considering poisoning my wife in the emails, is there?
Exactly, you're right, and that's where the defense is going to go. The defense is saying, you're not hearing that he's going to kill his wife. He's talking about divorce, that maybe he and Julie are going to make the decision to split and then have a divorce, what normal couples do when they just can't live together anymore.
Right, yes, a more normal solution to poisoning someone. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's next in this case? Already so many developments so far.
That's right. Well, we're waiting for the cross-examination on this computer expert, and I think that'll be fascinating because the defense may show us searches that we haven't heard about yet, searches that maybe show that Julie could have done all of this. But then after that, we hear it's going to be Aaron Dillard. That's the jailhouse snitch. Allegedly, he spoke with Mark Jensen in jail just several months ago, and Mark Jensen, according to the prosecution, spilled his guts and told this jailhouse inmate exactly how he killed his wife, Julie Jensen.
Now, you mentioned examining whether Julie could have done all of this, but do you think that it's sufficient when you talked earlier about the fact that Julie was not computer literate, for example? Is that enough for the defense to counter and say, no, it couldn't possibly have been, the prosecution to counter and say it couldn't possibly have been Julie Jensen using the computer?
Well, that's one thing they're going to use, and that's where the jury is the trier of fact, and that's where the jury will look at evidence on both sides and weigh it out and determine, gee, did Julie Jensen really possibly do these searches herself? That's a reasonable doubt right there. Was she really trying to frame her husband or figure out her own suicide? If so, you'd have to find Mark Jensen not guilty. But if the jury believes that Julie didn't know how to work a computer and wouldn't have done these searches late at night and early in the morning, then they may go the other way.